Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm your host, GX94 Agriculture Director Doug Falconer, and I'm joined by CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young and the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh. Gentlemen, of course, the Saskatchewan harvest is at 91% complete as of the latest crop report. Manitoba's crop report suggests 73% complete. What are your take on those numbers, Kevin?
I'm surprised at the progress because as more and more producers are complete, it's tough to make those big jumps in percentages. I believe the previous week we were at 79% in Saskatchewan and now 91%. So that is a great progress, and great to be ahead of the 5 and 10-year averages as the days get shorter and weather becomes more uncertain. So great progress and great news for maintaining crop quality.
How's the harvest going in the Regina area, Ryan?
Not much new on this frontier in the Regina area. Kind of looks like a lot of producers have wrapped up harvest. I know where I live, just outside of Regina, it's much of the same picture. There's a lot of empty fields full of straw from the crops. So all things considered, things are all right over here. But just one of the takeaways from the provincial crop report that I'm always curious about is how yields are doing, and it's kind of all over the place, as the crop report indicates, depending on where you are, and a lot of it due to the variable weather conditions that we've had in this growing season, from lots of rain at the start of the seeding season to the hot, dry conditions that we had in July and August. And depending on the crop that you have, it's either good or bad. So take these numbers as you may. Example, hard red spring wheat, the yield is around 46 bushels per acre. Durum around 32, barley 62, oats 75, canola is right around 33 bushels per acre. So kind of all over the map. And those are just some numbers that I cited over on our website at SaskAgToday.com. You can find all the details of the latest provincial crop report there. So that's kind of my take on how harvest is going around here in the Regina area.
Yeah, here in the East Central District of Saskatchewan, they're saying 88% complete. We took out supper in the field Wednesday night to the Stockholm area, which is south of Yorkton on the highway to Whitewood, and they had already done 8,600 acres. They were done almost for a week now. They've been done, so obviously progress is moving along here in the East Central District, and he was generally pleased with his yields and had already sold some peas to a company out of Regina, so he was pretty happy with how those things were going. Next up, we wanted to talk about was the port situations, and it's kind of rare to have 3 different ports come up for discussion, but we did this week. Obviously, there was a labor disruption at the Port of Vancouver. There's also been a labor disruption at the Port of Montreal, and now there is a labor disruption at all the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports in the United States. Kevin, what do you make of all this?
Well, it was good to see the grain terminals strike being relatively short-lived, and now we can continue to try to recover from that strike and the railway strike previously and get grain movement back on track again. Disconcerting that a 3-day planned strike at Port of Montreal at 2 of the terminals there, affecting containerized traffic. And then we have the case of a whole lot of strikes in the ports along the east coast of the US, which doesn't really directly affect Canadian movement. And maybe it makes Canada look just a little bit better because another grain exporter is also having port troubles. But I would expect that they'll have to address that U.S. situation pretty quickly. It's going to be pretty crippling to the entire nation. But so we'll still have to continue to watch the Port of Vancouver or Port of Montreal situation. And there are other grain handling agreements that within the next few months that are going to be important to watch as well.
Ryan, you had a chance to speak with Greg Northey regarding a lot of the port issues.
Yeah, obviously he said that it's concerning whenever strikes happen like this of this magnitude, considering the Port of Vancouver and the Port of Montreal. They're 2 of a few major ports in Canada, and they both play a vital role in our exports to other markets around the world. Taking the Port of Vancouver, for example, they handle 70% of containerized grain exports, and Montreal holding their fair share, probably roughly 20% or something like that. But nonetheless, very important. And of course, the issues around the strikes and how we got to this point, the unions are wanting not only higher wages, but better scheduling as well. That's a common thread among the two labor disputes that we've had. Vancouver, that one is done. They reached a tentative deal with a ratification vote set for Friday. So we might find out at the end of the day then, or maybe in the days ahead, whether they approve or reject the deal. And as for Montreal, it's kind of a limited strike, or as Greg Northey put it, a rolling strike. It's one of the tools in the union's toolbox that they can use legally in order to get a better deal with the employer. And in that case, on the East Coast, it's the Maritime Employers Association. That situation there, not looking great at the moment. Both sides, they claim that neither side has met at the table and nothing has been accomplished. And the association's saying that meetings so far haven't been fruitful. They've had mediators alongside them during the talks, and even an emergency meeting with the Canada Industrial Relations Board, but so far nothing fruitful. So depending on how things go over the next few days, we could see another limited strike at the Port of Montreal.
Moving on to grain prices, we've seen some nice little increases in a lot of the grains and oil seeds over the last week or so. Kevin, what's your take on that?
Canola has shown some strength, some gradual increases without some of the big drops that we've seen previously. Spring wheat prices a bit stronger, some improved bids here and there on durum prices. In the pulse crops, large green lentils particularly are up a few cents a pound over the last couple of weeks. 3 cents a pound on is like $1.80 a bushel. That's a big move that a lot of people didn't probably expect. Feed barley has shown more strength than I would have expected as well. So the cash prices are and in the futures markets, we just have canola and wheat really that are affected, and we can watch them through the futures prices as well as cash prices, and Ryan watches those. But certainly cash prices in many instances over the last couple of weeks are showing some strength, which is really good news.
What's
Yeah,
driving it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Each has its own. There's problems in some areas of the world where crops are looking less bountiful than they did. There's some restocking of products, such as in large green lentils. So there seems to be a number of factors at play, but not just one overriding factor that they can point to. But a rising tide tends to float all ships.
Ryan?
And I've noticed that with the prices that I follow from the Moose Jaw grain terminal, the Viterra one, and canola has been holding its own over the last week or two. It's been going up and not a whole lot of downward trends, but when it has gone down, it hasn't tanked like it has in weeks past. So that's one area of positive news. The kind of the other price that goes up and down and shows any sort of fluctuation is the grade 1 red spring wheat. That's been going up as well in the last week or two. So that's positive news. And from what I've noticed from one of the futures contracts that I follow and chat with Adam Bacallo from Ventum Financial is the December Minneapolis wheat contract. I've noticed in recent weeks that on a Monday, for example, the price for that futures contract will just spike up by, say, 10 cents a bushel and then slowly go down from there. I'm not sure why that's the case, but it's an interesting trend nonetheless.
And of course, on Tuesday, October 1st, we had an election called in Saskatchewan. We haven't had a whole lot of discussion about agriculture and what the Saskatchewan Party and the NDP, the two main parties, will have to say about it. Kevin, is there anything you'll be watching for on that front?
I would like to see a promise from both parties that they will push for cost sharing, government cost sharing of the premiums for the livestock price insurance program. I think the livestock industry has not benefited to the same degree as the crops industry as far as government programs. Livestock price insurance would be far more attractive and have far more enrollment if the premium could be cut in half with government contributions. And I believe that Saskatchewan should be pushing for that and try to get that part of a national program. That's one thing I'm looking for. I'll be interested in seeing the platforms and the promises that come out from both parties, but I'm not sure that this election is going to be fought on a lot of agricultural issues, unlike some elections of the past.
Ryan, you had a chance to speak with the Saskatchewan Cattlemen's Association on their wish list.
Yeah, about a month ago, they sent a letter to the Saskatchewan Party and the NDP just to get a sense of where they officially stand on a number of cattle-related issues as well as ag-related issues. And they range from the livestock price insurance program to the Lake Diefenbaker irrigation project, what both parties might do if they form government later on this month and within the first few days or few months of government. So they're still waiting for a response back from both parties, but they intend on making those responses public once they get them in the mail.
And finally, we wanted to talk about something that you brought up, Kevin, about some possible and looks like probable changes to the Agri-Invest program for next year.
For the first time, one of the farm support programs is going to have strings attached, and producers that have allowable net sales of $1 million or more over the last 3 years, on average, if they're over $1 million in allowable net sales, in order to get the matching government contribution from Agri-Invest, they're going to have some sort of environmental risk assessment. And some might have a 4R stewardship declaration. Some might be organic producers, and that would qualify. Some might have the livestock sustainability programs that may qualify. Saskatchewan has come out with an environmental agri-risk assessment program that producers could go through and therefore be eligible for this declaration. Now, a lot of producers, myself included, are not at $1 million in allowable net sales per year, but a lot of producers are, and in order to get $10,000 in matching contribution if they're at $1 million in allowable net sales, starting in 2025, they're going to have an environmental risk assessment. So, and I don't think there's a really strong awareness that that's coming, but it's something coming down the pipeline that producers, larger producers, are going to have to be aware of.
All right, well, thanks for making us aware of that, Kevin. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, and 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director, Ryan Young, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer saying so long until next time.